army crawl out of it. As soon as I took one little move, I knew that wasn't going to work because my back was broke. I had my vertebrae, when I hit the ground, went like this, and the T12 vertebrae knocked the corner off T11, and then it basically bumped right into my spinal cord when it did that. So, I mean, it was instant. I didn't sever it. Most of the time, people who break their backs, they don't sever a spinal cord. It just is bumped. And so that's what happened to me. It was done. And I was starting to get a little bit shocky at that point. Because I'm cold, and I'm losing, I don't know, whatever's happening, my brain's starting to go out. At one point in there, my wife had come out, and she didn't know where I was. Of course, after a little bit after dark came and I didn't come back, she thought something might be up. She actually came out to the woods and she called, and I could hear her yelling, and I said, "Get an ambulance." And she thought I said something else. She went back in the house for a couple hours. And so, I mean, I didn't know. I just assumed someone would have come at that point. But I didn't have any idea of time or anything. I was just laying there cold, shivering. So, I started thinking about, well, okay, I'm about to be dead. All right. I mean, it wasn't that bad. I mean, I think of death being a really terrible, horrible thing, but I knew I'd be in heaven. If I died, all this pain in my back was going to be gone. I'd be walking on streets of gold, and I'd be walking. Because my prospects at that point didn't look so good. So I kind of just relaxed. Said, this is the way it is. No reason fussing more about it. Did some praying for my family. So you start thinking about your family. You know, when bad things happen, you don't really think about, oh my goodness, people are going to look at me in a wheelchair. You think about who's going to pay the bills for my kid, who's going to put food on the table and pay the mortgage and put gas in the car. And all those things were consuming me while I laid there for about 6.5 hours. So I saw a light. It wasn't the one up here, you know, you're thinking. There was actually a flashlight coming down through the woods. So I got my flashlight out. It was pitch black, obviously, because it's way past dark. And I started kind of waving it around. And a friend of ours, who my wife had called after not coming back for those couple hours, had come down to the house and walked down into the woods, found his way to me, and I said, "Jason, I broke my back, I'm paralyzed." And I felt bad for him telling him that, you know, because I don't do good with people in hospitals. Strangely enough, I don't do good around people in wheelchairs because I empathize too much with them. You know, I don't want to see them suffer, and I didn't like letting him feel bad for me laying there suffering. So he gets on his phone, and ambulance is coming, a helicopter, and I learned something about rescue people. You got to be a special kind of person to be a firefighter or a paramedic, because you see a lot of bad stuff. You see people at their worst, and you got to have a certain heart to be able to do that kind of stuff, because I couldn't do it. And anybody in here that does that, I just take my hat off to you right now. Just say I appreciate that. But they need to learn something. It hurts like crazy. Don't put a guy with a broken back on a wooden backboard. It hurt like crazy. And they didn't know how to get out. I'm trying to direct them, and they basically went right up through the middle of the woods, over rock walls and everything else. I'm jostling around. And I was crying for Jesus because my back hurt so bad rolling around on that wooden backboard. They got me up to an ambulance, took me out to the road, stuck me on a helicopter. I'd never been on a helicopter till that day. And I did not enjoy my first ride. I was starting to kind of go out of consciousness. They kept trying to get me, "Are you with us, Mr. Haynes? Are you with us, Mr. Haynes?" And I'd be like, you know, open my eyes and stuff. They're having a conversation about socks or something in the helicopter. And I'm jammed into this little hole. There's not a lot of room on those things. But they take me to Atlanta Medical Center. Don't know why they put me in the helicopter. My wife in the car beat them. And they start rolling me around and poking and prodding and doing all kinds of stuff to me. They cut all my clothes off already. I was still freezing cold. And one of the hardest things, though, was the trip between the helicopter and the ICU, or the emergency room. My wife had come into the hospital, and she had Rachel in her arms. And Rachel's looking down at me like, what happened to my dad? That was the hardest thing I think I could have gone through at that time. I hadn't shed a tear that whole time. So they did whatever they did to me, and I don't remember much after they started rolling me around on that table and poking me and stuff. Next day I woke up, and they had scheduled me for surgery Tuesday, so this was now Sunday. So they scheduled me for surgery on Tuesday, and they went ahead and cut me open and put some erector set in my back, screwed me together, a bunch of stuff. That cut down there on my hips where they took stuff to fuse my bones in my back. And I had 37 staples down my back, and it was really painful. And I'm sure someone in here has rods and artificial stuff in there, so they know what screws going in the bone feels like. So it was a really tough time, and I was ICU that whole time. I learned what morphine was all about. It became my friend and helped me get through the most painful part of the surgery. The surgery was a lot worse than the actual breaking the back because of all the stuff they do to you to get those screws and stuff in you there. So that was Tuesday. Thursday, they stuck me on another ambulance, and they took me up to Shepherd Center. Now that ride from my bed at Atlanta Medical Center to the ambulance was traumatic because they got to lift you and move you around. You don't want to move at all when they've got you laid open and screwed and stapled together. You just don't want to move. Well, Shepherd Center had tile floor with the big gap. And they roll you over that thing, and you don't like tile floor then. So you don't like anything that has to do with movement and bumps. So they get me into Shepherd Center, and this was the first time that I was alone. Because ICU, there's always someone there. You know, of course, the ER, someone's there. Ever since Jason found me, they got me, well, through the medication and all that stuff, got me in the Shepherd Center. We were in a room where there's 4 beds in a room. I had the far right corner. They stuck me back, and they stuck me on this wheelchair. Some of you might have seen it before, but the back lays down flat. And another thing that happens physiologically to you is you can't keep your blood up in your head. So like a fighter pilot, they wear these suits. And when they go through these G-forces that pumps air into the pockets of the G-suit to squeeze your legs so that the blood stays up in your head and you don't pass out. Well, when you break your back, your valves in your legs don't work anymore. So what happens is when you sit up, the blood goes, and it goes down into your legs, and you pass out. So they've got to reacclimate your body and your system to being able to sit up without passing out. Other valves that do work have to kind of take over the job of keeping the blood up where it needs to be so you can stay conscious. So I was in this wheelchair. They got me in there. It was that same day. It was Thursday. So they got me in there. First thing they do is they get me into bed and they put me into some different other gown. I don't know. It's a humiliating experience. Then they put you in this wheelchair and they tilted me up just a little bit. They want to start getting my body acclimated to be able to sit up. Then they left. Well, this is the first time I'm alone. And the devil came up, he put a thought in my head that brought me to tears for the first time. He says, who's going to walk your daughter down the aisle? And I'll tell you, that broke me up. Because your family is the most important thing to you. And when you want to take care of those you love, and you're rendered into a condition where you can't, it's a very humbling experience. So, let me see where I'm at. So that's my wife. That's Rachel. And that meathead's me. And you'll see in front of me right here is a piece of pie. Now that pie meant an awful lot to me because my wife makes the best apple pie on the planet. I'm sorry, ladies. It's just a fact. It's just the way it is. She makes the best apple pie on the planet. This was November 15th. This just happened to be the first year that we were going to have my family down for Thanksgiving. Well, I just broke my back and I ruined it for everybody. At least that's how I felt. So I have a broken back. It's a few days after the accident. And my wife, who's planning on having all these people come in from out of town, has to make new plans. And she's calling everybody. Dan's been in an accident. He's paralyzed. He's probably never going to walk again. So my sister came down. My parents came from everywhere, and people came to see me. And you know, I just felt terrible. I really ruined it for him. And I said, look, I don't want you to not come for Thanksgiving. Please come for Thanksgiving. Don't worry about me. Go to my house. I said, that will be the best thing that you can do for me. So come, go have Thanksgiving dinner. And when you're done, bring me a plate of food. Because I was eating hospital food. And that's not good. It's bad for you. So my wife brought a big old plate of food, so I had real Thanksgiving dinner, I had real apple pie, and I got to see my family there anyway. And that really meant a lot to me. It really did. It raised my spirits. I'll find out where I'm at here. Oh, good. Right on schedule. So, all right, it's needless to say, I was tough. Turtle shell, had to wear a turtle shell, went through a lot of therapy. But I'd be a fool because I consider the hunting people, a hunting community. We all have like minds when it comes to enjoying the outdoors, chasing game, hunting, the whole experience, relationships that you build, the memories that you build. If I didn't try to encourage you from stuff that I learned from this. Now, the first thing I'll tell you is wear a harness. Please wear a harness. I didn't wear a harness because I didn't have money at the time, but I had a strap. And I could have found the money somewhere, maybe not rented a movie or going to a movie or something, taken the money and bought the safety equipment necessary. I know that the majority of you in here probably don't do that. I know, especially you young guys, because you feel like you're invincible. And I feel the same way. I still feel I'm invincible, even when I'm up here on this thing. So, go get a harness. And ladies, if the guy doesn't go buy him the harness, and then threaten him with whatever you want until he wears the harness. Because it's not worth it. It's just not worth it. Now, The harnesses today, you strap them on, you can strap them right to your tree stand. Now, it used to be, you had to wrap it around the tree and all this stuff, but now they've got better systems. They just strap it right to the climbing tree stand, and if something bad happens, as in the case of what I endured, you fall, at least you're still protected. You're not going down to the earth. You're in a predicament, you're hanging from it, but you can get out of that one. The controlled descent's better than what I went through. So get a harness, please. And I'll tell you what, for me getting in this wheelchair, if any one of you happens to get a harness and is saved from a fall, it'll make me feel like this was worth it. Please. The other thing, and more importantly, is that the only thing that got me through that ordeal was that I had the peace of God. Jesus Christ is in my heart, and I didn't have to worry about that. I was facing it. If someone hadn't found me, they'd be looking for bones now. Without God, it would have been a very hopeless situation. Because at that age, great career, got the house built, got the family now, finally, things were looking up. And now, that was changed a lot. But God doesn't change. And the promises in His Word never change. And the salvation that He gave me didn't change. And I know one day, I know one day I'm going to walk again. Now, whether it's here or on the other side, I know I'm going to walk again. But more importantly, I know I'm going to be in heaven. And there's some people here might have come because they got a chance at a door prize. Maybe a neighbor asked them that they're obligated to come. Maybe they really like the food. And I get that. I totally get that. But there's nothing that can be said for having the peace of God in your life. No one's invincible. Nobody gets out of this life alive. So, I want to implore you, please consider your relationship with Jesus Christ. Today. Right here today. If you have a relationship with Christ, you know the peace I'm talking about, because we're all going to struggle at some point in our lives. It might not be a wheelchair, but it might be a relationship or a job or some other physical ailment. But it's coming. It is coming, and it's going to come hard. And you're going to feel alone, like I did out there for 6.5 hours in the cold and the wet with a broken back. Might not be a broken back. Might be something else. And when that time comes, and you don't have anything to turn to, it's going to be the worst feeling of your life. As bad as I felt, I knew I had something to look forward to on the other side. It didn't matter. God would take care of it. I knew that. But if you don't have God in your life, you're just done. It's not worth it. Just like I implored you to get a safety harness to keep you safe, Jesus Christ will keep you safe into the next life. And He's your friend forever. No matter what happens around you, no matter what trials come. Just remember, the relationship with Christ is better than anything you'll ever have. Let's everybody close their eyes for a minute. Bow your heads. Romans 3:23 says, "For all have sinned and come short of the glory of God." That means all of us have the trouble of sin. Every single one of us. And that sin means that we are bound to death. Death, not just physically, though that's a big thing, but death by separation from God. That means eternity in hell, folks. But God sent His Son to die for our sins. And if we trust in that perfect work on the cross of Calvary, then we'll be in heaven forever. We can have the peace, the same peace that I have, knowing that someday I'm going to walk again. You can have that you won't have to burn in hell forever. Because all of us are bound for hell unless we have Christ. For God so loved the world that He gave His own Son, that whoever believes in Him shouldn't perish but have everlasting life. That's the simple message of the gospel, folks. It's that simple. Father, I pray for each of us tonight, dear God. I just ask that you would just fill us with your Spirit. Give us the strength and the power to confess your name before men and before you. Lord, I pray that you give courage to us. Courage not to just act and go get a harness for climbing a tree, but courage to read the Bible, to seek your face, and to ask you into our lives. You are merciful to us, Lord. Despite the curse that we have to endure because of sin on this earth, we know that ultimately there's something far better that waits. Thank you for hearing us. Thank you for your dear Son, Lord Jesus. In His name, amen.
Amen.